Was 43 years old. An assailant had both of her.
Okay, so I just started my video, so I have to re-say it, but this is Grandmother Horror Story animated by Wansee Entertainment, okay? It's gonna be, we're doing animated videos.
Never show your back to a stranger. This is what my grandmother used to say to me in sign language every day. When my grandmother was 43 years old, an assailant had both of her ears ripped off and eaten. She told me this story every day. Even though I'm now over 20 years old, she still caught up with me every day and talked to me.
That guy chewed off my ear. The bite was so strong that at first I thought I'd been bitten by a dog. I screamed, and he stroked my neck and said, "Be quiet before I eat your vocal cords too." Then he made a clicking sound with his teeth. That sound was so scary. I still shiver when I hear the sound of someone chewing food. And from then on, I started having a speech impediment.
It was 20 years ago, and security in our neighborhood was lax. So not only my grandmother, but many women's ears were eaten by him. But the police were unable to catch the culprit. But I reassured my grandmother, telling her not to worry, as times have improved now. That doesn't happen. But she always told me to cover my ears when I was outside. I told her that one day I'd rip off the criminal's ear and bring it to her. Then, one day, I saw an old, homeless man on the street, and I felt sorry for him, so I gave him money. He thanked me and was eating something strange. I asked him what he was eating, and he answered with a smile.
"This is a pig's ear."
I was surprised and asked him why he ate pig ear, and he smiled and said,
"Actually, I really want to eat human ears, but since I don't have any, I'm just eating these. When I see your ears, my mouth starts watering, and I'm going crazy. I might turn into a dog."
Okay, I need to just talk for a minute. What the hell? Why are you obsessed with ears? Like, you could be obsessed with anything else, like arms, fingers, eyeballs, teeth, anything but my goddamn ears.
Dog and eat your ears, so go away.
He ate the pig's ear like a starving man. My heart started racing. I asked him if he'd ever tried a human ear, and he quietly whispered,
No, I haven't tried it, but someone told me that human ears are really delicious.
Then he suddenly shouted.
He chewed my ear and said it was really delicious, and he continued to be amazed.
Only then did I discover it. He has no ears. I was shocked. I was horrified and tried to leave quickly, but he kept holding me, wouldn't let me go, and he told me,
This is a female character, right? This male narrator's really throwing it off.
I want to eat your ears too. I don't need any money, so can you just give me a bite?
He smiled and showed his teeth. His teeth were very sharp. I pushed him away, ran away. I went to my house and asked my grandmother if she remembered the criminal's face, and she nodded her head. I started sketching the criminal's face while talking to her. But as soon as I saw the completed sketch, I was shocked, because the sketch looked very similar to a homeless person I had seen. His half-closed eyes, very wide nose, serrated teeth, and above all...
Dude, I don't think I can draw that good. Like, that's kind of amazing.
His laughter was very unique. His laugh was very low-pitched, and when I imitated it, my grandmother was surprised, said that she remembered that laughter. So does that mean that the homeless person is the culprit who made my grandmother like this? Although it was late at night, I went back to where that homeless man was. He was lying there.
Why doesn't she have a weapon or like a gun or something?
Ran up to him and asked him if he had chewed off my grandmother's ear. Then he said,
Do you have a picture of your grandmother? I'd know when I see her face.
I grabbed his collar.
Do you remember the woman you threatened to eat off her vocal cords a long time ago? I remember, but the number of women I've threatened like that must be over 10.
I was so angry. I wanted to rip his ears off, but his ears were no longer there. He seemed to understand what I was thinking and laughed wildly.
I ate my own ear. It was so delicious. I didn't even feel the pain.
How do you come to the conclusion you like ears? Like, how does it start? Do you just like walk up to some random person and be like, yo, girl, you got some fine ears? And they're like, no, don't eat me. And he was like, maybe I'll try them. And then he nibbles them off. Like,
Why did God only give humans 2 ears? I want more.
Then suddenly he came towards me with his mouth open to bite my ear. I punched him square in the face with all my might. He screamed and fell backwards, but I just kept hitting him. And eventually he passed out. I took a picture of his face and returned home. I showed the picture to my grandmother.
why is she not called the police yet? Or he, I don't know. But why have like the police not been called?
She looked shocked. When I asked her if it was him, she covered her ears and nodded her head. The man hasn't been seen on that street since, and my grandmother never mentioned that man again.
Okay. Cool.
What exactly is the sandbox then?
It's a 3D metaverse. The building blocks are voxels, which are like
His name is Cooper, and when we have a person in our company whom I call the Laughing Man. His name is Cooper, and whenever he sees me, he bursts into laughter. However, it's not just a cheerful laugh. It's as if he's laughing to death, struggling to hold back his laughter. At first, I was taken aback, and as time went on, I started feeling uneasy. It was because he wasn't close to me, and we had never had a deep conversation. I discussed it with people around
By the way, this is by the same guy.
me, but strangely, they all said the same thing. Cooper? I've never seen him laugh even once. He's expressionless every day. Next time he laughs, take a picture. I want to see how he laughs. I was genuinely puzzled. Was he only laughing at me? Over time, I asked Cooper why he was only laughing when he saw me, but he closed his eyes and said, I see you. The way you react is so funny. He swung his arms, as if swinging a baseball bat. I asked him what he saw, but he didn't say a word. It sent chills down my spine, but there was nothing I could do. After that, he was often caught secretly watching me from a distance, struggling to hold back his laughter, and I got angry with him, but he couldn't help but laugh more. But I discovered that he never laughed when he was with other people. Only when he looked at me did he laugh brightly. It really gave me the creeps. Then one day, I was working late and alone in the office. When I tried to leave, Cooper was standing in front of me, holding a baseball bat. I shouted at him, asking what he was doing, but he just laughed without saying a word. He slowly approached me.
Okay, number 1, grab your monitor, throw it at him, call the cops, and then get the hell out of there.
Struggling to breathe because he was laughing so hard. Then he swung the baseball bat at me. I barely avoided it, but my arm was hit, and I groaned in pain. In response, he laughed even harder. Seizing the opportunity, I kicked him and ran away at full speed. He chased after me, but couldn't catch me. I immediately reported it to the police, and Cooper was arrested. But a while later, our company was turned upside down. It was revealed that Cooper had been arrested for murder. He had recently killed a neighbor and dumped the body. It was also revealed that he had attempted to murder and assault other people. One person, who barely survived from him, testified to the police, saying, "He was always laughing, so I thought he was a good person. But in the end, when he hit me and burst into laughter, I realized that was the true meaning of his laughter. I was in complete shock. What was even more shocking was when a colleague who had been closest to Cooper in our company said this. Cooper once told me he has a habit of laughing when he sees the people he wants to kill. He said he can't help but laugh because imagining killing that person makes him feel so good. At that time, I thought it was just a joke. I never imagined.
Why would you take that as a joke? Like, I mean, you could, but don't take it as a light joke. Like, I'd slowly get away from him over time after him saying that, because that's messed up.
It could be real. Thinking back now, it gives me chills to realize that I was close to him all this time. Fortunately, he never laughed at me. I'm really grateful. But I used to force jokes to make him laugh. It sends shivers down my spine to think about it now. After hearing his words, my heart sank. All those moments when he looked at me and laughed came flooding back.
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything online. Don't spend another dime on Amazon.
Spend dimes on Amazon and whatever this guy is supporting. But I don't want to get copyrighted. So support anything you want to support.
I met someone who looked just like me while traveling one day. He looked so much like me that I believed he was a twin. We both stopped and looked at each other in the face for a few seconds, and he asked me, "Who are you?" I couldn't say anything in shock and only looked at his face. He also looked at me in the face and continued to look incredulous. I ran away with an indescribable discomfort, but that night, I had a dream that my body burned down and turned into ashes. And when I woke up in the morning, my whole body began to crack and discharge. As time went by, my body...
So my biggest explanation for that is take a goddamn shower, you greasy piece of... I'm kidding.
began to hurt more and more. Gradually, it became difficult to breathe, and it became difficult to move as the arms and legs hardened. I was lost in thought. I heard I'd die if I met a doppelganger. Am I dying? I ended up visiting a famous fortune teller who was surprised to see me and said, "You were born by God's mistake. God is trying to turn you back into nothingness." I said I wanted to live, and the fortune teller shook his head and said there was no way. I went back stunned, and after that day, my body began to dry out like a dying tree. As the day went by, I became senile. My back was bent, my...
Dude, that would hurt so goddamn much. I'm like, not even gonna... I wouldn't even mess with that.
skin cracked, and blood began to leak out. Even after visiting a doctor, he said there was no cure, saying it was a strange disease with an unknown cause. I shouted at the sky, "God, you created me and now you're trying to get rid of me?" I wanted to live somehow, so I exercised for 6 hours a day and took care of all kinds of vitamins and health foods. Fortunately, I started to feel better, and I was able to slow down the speed of my body's breakdown. Then one day, I had a dream again. I saw a person who looked like me lying down in the form of a lump of ash, because his whole body was burned. I woke up screaming, and now I'm in a better shape than ever before. Surprisingly, after that, I gradually recovered my health and gradually returned to a healthy body. I don't know what happened. Did God change his mind? Or was it all just a coincidence? But one question remains in my mind. Where is the person who looked like me now? Is he alive?
Damn. Imagine accidentally killing your doppelganger.
This is what I experienced when I was 17. At that time, I was in good shape because I mastered many
I know somebody like this.
sports, such as boxing and wrestling. But one day, Alexander, a notorious delinquent at my school, asked me for a fight. I was bewildered and said, "If I hit you, you'll go straight to heaven." But I shouldn't have said this. He suddenly shouted in anger, "I'll chew you to pieces, eat you up, and then take a shit." I was perplexed, but I realized there was nothing I could do. He ran up to me and punched me, and I punched him back as I was enraged. He was knocked down to the floor by my fist, and blood started dripping from his nose. I tried to help him up, saying I'm sorry and let's stop this, but he grabbed me, knocked me over, and started beating me. I was infuriated and punched him badly. He fell down again and couldn't get up as he was in pain. I kept yelling at him to stop, but he was already half mad. He got up again and shouted as he approached me. "Let's fight!" I shouted. "Please stop! You're gonna die if you keep doing that," he said, smirking. "Of course! One of us must die!" He pounced on me, and I picked him up and pinned him to the ground. He broke his neck, got up.
Pinned him or snapped his goddamn neck. Dude.
With his neck broken and ran back at me. I tripped him with my leg, and he broke his arm as he fell down. He pounced on me with his arms broken as well. I yelled at him to stop, but he ran at me screaming, "I'll stop when you die!" I kicked him really hard, and he flew 10 feet away. He fell to the floor and tried to get up, but his whole body seemed to be broken, and it seemed that he couldn't move.
How strong do you have to be?
Called the police right at that moment. The police arrived, and he was taken away in an ambulance. He was hospitalized and taken to the intensive care unit. I was injured, as I was beaten up by him as well, but there were no major injuries. And after a while, I received another text message from him. There were 2 words written on that message: "Let's fight." I eventually called him, apologized, and told him I gave up. Then there was silence for a few seconds, and I heard him whispering, "Let's fight." My whole body trembled. He didn't listen to anything I said. His only goal was to fight me. I blocked his number. After a while, I received a letter. In the letter, once again, 2 words were written: "Let's fight." A few days later, I heard a knock and looked outside to find Alexander standing there. He was limping with a cast on his arm. I called the police, but he continued to hover around my neighborhood. I ended up moving, and I haven't heard from him since. Years passed, and I ran into my old high school friend Luke, and while talking with him, I happened to hear about Alexander. After he fought with me, he kept challenging other friends at school to fight, and most of the kids refused and avoided him, but one of them, a friend named Nicholas, accepted the fight, and in the end, the 2 of them fought until Alexander killed him with his bare hands. In the end, Alexander went to prison. I was horrified. He had meant everything.
Bro, maybe you should get a punching bag.
He ever said. If I hadn't suppressed him then, I wouldn't be alive now.
You want Fortnite skins?
Yeah, but not that way.
Happened to my little brother, Luke. He had a habit of consistently moving his eyes, just like someone who is so insecure. When I asked him why he does that, he replied, "The demons keep putting their faces against me to make eye contact with me, so I need to keep avoiding their eyes." However, there was nothing in front of him. He continued to move his eyes while eating, when he was walking down the street, when he was talking with somebody. He kept looking away as if someone was in front of him. I thought to myself that he was clearly suffering from a mental illness and recommended that he go to a psychiatrist, but he stubbornly refused to, saying that there are 10 demons hovering in front of him. Eventually, our family all agreed to send him to a psychiatric hospital. He ran riot and struggled to get out, but the doctor administered a tranquilizer to him and he fell fast asleep. However, this was when the incident happened. A few hours later, he opened his eyes and suddenly screamed as he grabbed his eyes. "Ah! Our eyes met!" He rolled around.
Maybe you should just shotgun. Boom. Right in the mouth.
Found in pain. Then he suddenly jumped up and groped his own body and face, shouting in a loud, monstrous voice. I finally got in! He was smiling, turning up only the whites of his eyes. I was so shocked and was perplexed at what had happened, and so were the doctors and nurses. He continued talking in a monstrous voice. This body is mine now. This body is now Satan's. This body is now the house of demons. I shouted in anger. Go to hell, you evil! He laughed, saying, Peter, what's the trouble? Hell is a nice place. After all, we called the priest and he performed exorcisms. The priest said Luke was born with eyes that could see demons, and he said that he must have seen demons all his life. How hard it must have been. Tears ran down my face. The priest performed an exorcism with his eyes covered up with a ribbon tied around his head. Luke yelled at the priest as he was tied to the bed. Look into my eyes. If I enter your holy body and commit a sin, how will God respond? When the priest sprinkled holy water on him, he let out a monstrous scream, and smoke came out with a burning sound. After a long exorcism, Luke finally fainted with his head dropped, and the priest said that no more demons would come near him. Luke woke up, and surprisingly, he no longer looked away. He regained his composure. However, even after that, every once in a while, as he walked down the street, he would point somewhere and say there is an evil spirit. But he never looked at that direction. When I looked where he pointed, nothing was there. I asked him, is there really such a thing as a demon in this world? And then he said, yes, there are many. Every day they hover around in front of people's eyes and whisper in their ears. There's also one in front of you right now. It's struggling to get your attention. Peter, I'll tell you one thing. If you see something strange in front of you, never look at it. You just have to pretend you didn't see it. Promise me.
Lauren's cool and all, but I can't show it.
Here is the story about the creepy cinema I went to. I was 15 when this story takes place. My mom and I planned on going to the mall and watching a movie. Since our favorite mall was far, we decided to watch a movie at a place nearby that we hadn't been to. We found a mall named Star Mall Alabang. This mall came from the Philippines, and there's been a crazy rumor about it having been built on top of a really old cemetery. We went inside, heading straight to the ticket booths. The ticket booth line was empty. I looked around and noticed we were the only ones there. At first, I didn't actually mind because that meant we would be first in line and would probably get the best seats. My mom and I hurried through the halls to get to our theater because our movie was about to start. Both of us expected there to be a few people in the movie theater, and yet there was no one in the theater. Every single seat was empty. What made this situation even more chilling was when the lights dimmed and it was only us in there. We couldn't handle how eerie it was, so we ran back out of the theater. Then, to our relief, we saw two girls walking through the doors of the theater we were just in. We headed back into the theater feeling more comfortable, knowing there were at least two other people there. We picked out our seats near the two girls and sat patiently waiting for the movie. While the trailers began playing, we didn't pay much attention, but I remember hearing a few people come in and sit behind us. I even heard a few whispers and chatter at that time. My mom remarked that it was silly that we had been so paranoid, and that maybe no one was in the theater yet because we were very early. This is when the story takes a creepy turn. The movie started, so as should be expected, my mother, the two girls, and I were giving the movie our full attention. After most of the movie had played, I needed to go pee. Despite having heard many people join the theater with us, I still felt scared. I asked my mom to go with me because I didn't want to go alone. She said, "Just go alone. The washroom is near." The movie was probably about to finish, so I figured I could just wait to go to the bathroom. I ain't gonna miss the best part, you know? I tried to hold it, but I couldn't. If I waited for the end of the movie, I'd definitely pee my pants. For sure. I moved through the row we were in so that I could get to the aisle and start making my
Me personally, I just keep a bottle on hand.
way down the
I'm kidding. I know.
stairs to the exit. Maybe I was being nosy, or maybe it was just out of habit. But I decided to look around and see if anyone else in the crowd was enjoying the movie. What I saw, or rather what I didn't see, stopped me in my tracks. There was no one at the cinema besides us. I had a mini heart attack because we literally just heard a few people going in earlier, and I could hear their talking too. As in, we are the only people that's been watching. I was too freaked out to go to the bathroom, so I hurried back to my seat. I would hold my pee until the movie was finished. When the movie finished and the lights were turned back on, the two girls and my mom were talking about the movie. You know, the usual, giving their opinions and stuff as I sat frozen in my seat. It wasn't until they turned around to check the seats around us that they also realized that we were completely alone. "Where's the others?" they asked. I stayed quiet because I do not want to talk about it.
Imagine getting hung.
Kicker, we run it.
Dude, is that Renegade Waiter? Alright, last one.
There was a middle-aged man among my neighbors who had been practicing martial arts for a very long time. He practiced by striking trees in his front yard every day and would break bricks with his bare hands. But one day, he was found dead in the front yard of his house. What was even more shocking was that he had suffocated to death with his fist stuck in his throat. His jaw was completely dislocated, something that couldn't have happened without compulsion. But there were no traces of someone having done it. The whole neighborhood was in shock, and the police focused on the investigation, but there was no progress. One day, while I was taking a rest at home, I heard a voice outside. "Please, open the door." When I heard that voice, I was walking over to the door and opening it before I knew it. It felt like an order I couldn't resist. In front of the door, there was a man dressed up with eyeball-shaped earrings, necklaces, and rings, and he was staring at me with his eyes wide open. I was startled, and at the same time, a tingling sensation ran through my brain and spine. Then suddenly, I became completely exhausted and started to be in a semi-conscious condition. He then said, "Please don't stare back at my face for a long time. Roll your eyes back." Then my pupils started to go up. I was so startled that I tried to look down, but it didn't work. It seemed to be out of my will. I screamed. Then he said, "Please don't make a sound," and my voice suddenly did not come out. I was standing there with an upward glance, feeling great pain. Even though I had my pupils upwards to the extent where I couldn't roll my eyes further, he kept saying, "More. Roll your eyes more, please." Tears flowed like a waterfall as I felt tremendous pain, as if my pupils were being ripped off.
Can I show this one? I don't know if I can show this. I might just end it there. Alright, see ya.